Good morning, everybody. Moses has asked me to come and tell a bit more of his story today because I'm one of Moses' friends. So let's see, where did we get to? He said something about chocolate, a jelly baby, a Moses basket, and something very yummy. Well, I know what that means. Yes, can you remember? Moses was put into a Moses basket, put onto the River Nile to escape being killed by Pharaoh's men, because Pharaoh had decreed that all the boys under 2 would be killed. Boo, hiss, hiss, hiss. No, not very nice. Now, our story is going to move very fast from this point. In fact, about 80 years fast. So we're going to pinpoint a few things which happened, which Moses has told me about. So, we started as Moses as a baby, who then became a prince in Egypt. This lasted about 40 years, just a bit younger than I am now. At this point, he kills an Egyptian man to protect a Jewish slave. Remember, Moses was a Jew himself, and he felt he needed to protect one of his own. He panicked, because he'd killed somebody, and ran away into the desert, which lasted another 40 years of Moses' life. Here, he marries and has a son, and is now a lowly shepherd looking after sheep. Can you imagine? He started off as a little boy in danger. Then he became a prince in Egypt. And then he ended up being a shepherd in the desert. What a roller coaster of a ride. I think we should find out what happens next. But then something amazing happens. He meets God on top of a mountain. And God tells Moses he's sending him back to Egypt to rescue the Jewish slaves. Yeah. Now, Moses was not happy about this. He didn't want to go back and started to make excuses. And his biggest excuse to God was, well, I'm not a very good speaker. Who would listen to me? But God knew what Moses was going to say. That's because God knows everything. And tells Moses Aaron, his older brother, is on his way to help him. So no excuses. Off you go to Egypt, and I have faith in you, Moses. So Moses set off, not very happy, and went to ask Pharaoh to let his people go. Now, let's tell the story of what happens next. So come on, let's get to this story. All right, I'll see you in a minute. Bye-bye.
God led Moses' brother Aaron to meet Moses in the mountain. Moses told Aaron all about God's plan to set the Hebrew people free from the Egyptians. Together they carried the news to the Hebrew leaders. When Moses showed the sign to the Hebrew elders, they knew God would help them. Together they bowed in worship. Hallelujah! Bravely, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh. God says, "Let my people go," they told him. "I will not let Israel go," Pharaoh answered. He would not obey God. God would have to use his great power to change the Pharaoh's mind. Pharaoh was angry. God had commanded him through Moses to let the Israelite slaves leave Egypt. He refused. "Work them harder," Pharaoh ordered his slave masters. Now things were even worse for the Israelites. "Gather your own straw. We won't provide it any longer, but make the same number of bricks." Those were the Pharaoh's new order. The taskmasters whipped some slaves because they didn't have time to gather straw and still make enough bricks. The people blamed Moses and Aaron for their troubles. Moses found a place to pray. "O Lord," he cried, "you have not rescued your people at all." "I am the Lord, and I will bring you out," God answered. Then God sent Moses and Aaron back to Pharaoh. When the mighty ruler asked God's servants for a sign from God, Aaron's rod turned into a slithering snake. "Call my magicians!" Pharaoh roared. When the Egyptian magicians threw down their rods, each rod became a snake also. But Aaron's rod swallowed the others. Still, Pharaoh refused to let the people go. Next morning, Moses and Aaron met Pharaoh at the river. When Aaron held out his rod, God turned the water into blood. Fish died. People couldn't drink it. But Pharaoh hardened his heart. He would not let the Israelites leave Egypt. Again, Moses told Pharaoh to let God's people go. Pharaoh refused again. God sent another plague. All of Egypt was filled with frogs. Every house, every room, even the cooking ovens were overrun with frogs. Pray for me, that God will remove the frogs, Pharaoh pleaded, and I will let your people go. But when the frogs were gone, Pharaoh changed his mind. He would not free the slaves. God sent billions of tiny bugs called lice. Every person and beast itched from their bites, but Pharaoh would not give in to God. Next, God sent flies, swarms of them. God sent disease to kill the Egyptians' livestock. God sent painful boils. People suffered terribly, still Pharaoh resisted God. After the plague of boils, God sent hordes of locusts. The locusts ate every green plant in the land. Then God sent 3 days of complete darkness, but stubborn Pharaoh would not free the Israelites. I will send one more plague, God warned. About midnight, all the firstborn of man and beast will die. God told the Israelites their firstborn would be saved if they placed lamb's blood on their doorposts. At midnight, a great cry arose in Egypt. Death had struck. At least one person had died in every house. Get out! Pharaoh begged Moses. Go! Serve the Lord! Quickly, God's people marched beyond Egypt's border. God told Moses to remember the Passover night because the angel of God had passed over the Israelites' homes and struck Pharaoh and his people. After 430 years in Egypt, God's people were now free. God led them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. But Pharaoh was not finished with the Israelites. Again he forgot God. Again he changed his mind. Gathering his army, he went after the slaves. Soon he had them trapped between the cliffs and the sea. The Lord shall fight for you, Moses said. Moses went forward to the water's edge and stretched out his arm. A great miracle happened. God opened a path through the water. The people crossed safely. Then Pharaoh's army galloped into the Red Sea. Now we'll catch them, the soldiers thought. But God closed the waters. Egypt's powerful army was swallowed up. Now Pharaoh knew that Israel's God was Lord over all. Wow, what an amazing story about Moses. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? He started off in a Moses basket. I really love it. Do you children? Yeah, Moses in a Moses basket. Then he was picked up by the Pharaoh's daughter, brought up as a Prince of Egypt. Yeah, he was a prince. Then he gave it all up, ran away, lived in the desert, in the wilderness for 40 years, got married, spoke to God, argued with God, sent back to Egypt, rescued the Israelites out of Egypt to the big river, the big sea. And guess what? God helped him and it opened up. He walked right across. The Egyptians were chasing after them. He got to the other side with the rest of the Israelites and then it closed back up to protect them. Wow, what an amazing story. He put his faith in God and that's what happened. Bye children. Bye. Bye-bye. Hello everybody. Yes, I'm going to do the craft today. I've been let loose on the craft table. So what we need today is some glue, toilet roll, some watercolours. I'm using green and brown. Some clothes pegs. I'm using 4. You may need an adult to do the cutting, so we need some scissors. We need some cardboard. I've just taken it from a box of budgie corn, nothing special. A couple of pens. So you're asking, what are we going to make? Well, we are going to make one of the plagues, because we're doing a story about Moses. God sent some plagues to teach Pharaoh a lesson. Hopefully Pharaoh does. And we're going to make a frog. So, got a pink mouth, feet, body. So that's what we're going to do. Our first step is to actually draw his 4 arms and legs. 2 arms, 2 legs, sorry. So I'm going to use a brown so we can see it quite good. As you can see, I've drawn my 4 limbs for my frog. Okay. To cut them out, you will need a parent. It's quite sharp, so if you need any help, please ask a parent to be safe. So I'm just finishing out cutting the last limb out, and we've got our 4 limbs. Next point is we're going to paint them. Now frogs that I know are green. But we need to colour his mouth in. So I'm going to use a pink pen. See? 1 pink mouth. But we seem to have a hole all the way through. Well, a frog doesn't, does he? So we're going to have to go to the next step. The next step is we're going to flatten the back of the frog. So I'm going to put some glue on a bit of cardboard, and I'm going to use my finger to spread. You can use anything you want as long as you get enough glue in, and then we're going to squash it down. Now this is where the pegs come in handy, because we want to make sure it stays shut. Next step is to put the limbs on. I'm going to dip the end of the limb into the glue, stick on, and then hold it in place. So position where you want your feet to go, and then carry on with the other ones. So all the limbs attached and held in place to dry with our clothes peg. So you can put that to one side at the moment and let it dry. Now I think it's starting to look a bit like a frog. It's ready to jump. So what we need now is we're going to give it some spots on its back, because don't forget it's a plague. So I'm just going to dab some round circles on to make him look not very happy. As you can see, we've got some stem, but we also need some eyes, don't we? So with a brown pen, black pen, whichever you feel, give him some big eyes. So I've given it 2 eyes, his mouth, his limbs, and his pink mouth. So I think we've actually got a frog. Now a plague is more than one. Now I've made 2 frogs, so if you can make a better frog than me, which I'm sure you can, please send it in, and we'll make our little plague together. Okay? Bye everybody.